Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm here to do a review for the movie Venom. I remember when it first got advertised, or they first started talking about them making a Venom movie, and I, like many other people, were like, what in the world were they thinking about coming up with a Venom movie? I guess like an origin story type of movie outside of the MCU. This movie has no attachment to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is made by Sony, and the only slight connection it really has as far as Marvel goes is to Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is under the MCU now, but it still has ties with Sony. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, when they first said that they was coming out with a Venom movie, I thought, like many other people, and I had pretty low expectations. I saw the first trailer and I was like, I think I need to see another one, and then my expectations went up a bit higher. The second trailer came out, I was like, oh, after seeing this one, this movie has to be rated R. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. They battled back and forth with it as far as them coming out with, with an R-rated version of the movie, and they ended up going with the PG-13 movie. As a matter of fact, they were battling back and forth with that rating system so much that the movie didn't get an official rating until like about 3 weeks ago. So they were really fighting hard to get an R-rated version. So maybe when it comes out on Blu-ray, it'll be a director's cut version of it that we didn't see in theaters. But anyway, the movie was pretty much about this reporter by the name of Eddie Brock. For those of you who don't know the story, with Venom, played by Tom Hardy, who's one of the best actors of our time right now. Everyone says that Tom Hardy doesn't pick bad roles. He may sometimes be pigeonholed into a bad movie, but he does the best with what he can. And he plays Eddie Brock. He's this reporter. He is currently living in San Francisco. He's from New York, like how it is in the actual Spider-Man story, and I'm glad they actually incorporated some of that into the movie, as far as him mentioning him being in New York and then relocating to San Francisco with his fiance. I think her name is Annie or Ann, and she's played by Michelle Williams. And they live in San Francisco. Like I said, he's a reporter, and he's one of those reporters. He has his own show. He starts to rebrand himself. So he becomes real popular. He has his own show, and then one day he decides that he wants to go and interview this top scientist for this corporation that he just has a feeling is a bit shady. Once he finds out some information about him, he goes and interviews them. Then stuff starts to happen. He ends up losing his job because he can't prove to his boss that the information in which he was interviewing the person for was actually the information was actually legit and not something that he just pulled out of his ass. And it ends up affecting him, and then it also affects his fiance, and then he ends up living pretty much down on his luck for the a good chunk of the movie, until he comes across the symbiote known as Venom. I will have to say this: if I couldn't say anything else good about this movie, I would say that the look of Venom looked very good. Now, a lot of people had some complaints about Venom. They said, why does Venom look like liquid? Why does he just look like this moving puddle and everything like that? I actually like this Venom compared to how Venom looked in Spider-Man 3. If y'all remember, in Spider-Man 3, Venom looked like he was made out of plastic. But also at the time, technology was different. That Spider-Man 3 movie came out in 2003. I mean, not 2003, 2007. And now here we are in 2018. So I wouldn't expect Venom to look like how he did then, and how he does now. Now, some people were complaining, okay, Spider-Man, not Spider-Man, but Venom doesn't have the spot on his chest. Well, I would understand why they would not have the spot on his chest, because he hasn't come in contact with Spider-Man yet, and that would be the only reason. If they had put the spider on his chest in this movie, it would make no sense, because the symbiote known as Venom has not come in contact with Spider-Man yet. Hopefully, if they do make another Venom movie, which based on how the movie ended as far as the post-credit scenes go, they will go forward with making a cameo that has or features Peter Parker as Spider-Man in it going forward. If not in the second one, maybe possibly in the third one, when they actually come in contact with each other. Because if you know Spider-Man and the history of Spider-Man and Venom, they were like the big enemies, enemies with each other. It was almost like a Batman Joker type of thing with them. In Spider-Man, he would come in contact with a certain villain, and then you probably wouldn't see them again into maybe years down the line if they ever wanted to have them come in contact again. But when it came to Spider-Man and Venom, it was a recurrent thing, like how it was with Batman and Joker. Like, they would come in contact every so often because they were popular as far as working together as enemies with each other. But Venom is more like I guess you could say, an anti-hero in some sorts, in some aspects, depending on how he's written, who he's written by, could be seen as a villain at the same time. But so what they did was, they decided to like put like these white streaks around his body, I guess, to represent veins and everything like that, so it could actually show that that's, I guess, what will take the place of the white spider that was on Venom's chest. And I actually like the movie for the simple fact that it also introduced us to the other symbiotes. Now, one gripe I did have is you saw some of the other symbiotes, but you didn't really see them active. The only other symbiote you actually saw that was active was Riot, which was the main villain of the movie. He didn't really have that much screen time. Like, Riot probably had a good total of maybe 15 minutes of screen time, and it happened like towards the third act of the movie when the main villain of the movie, I guess you could say a side villain of the movie, came in contact with him as a host. And that fight sequence between Venom and Riot was actually pretty damn epic, how they were fighting and trying to tear each other's symbiotes off of their hosts and combine with each other, you know, to try to take control of each other. I like how they incorporated Venom's weakness, which is like these high frequency sounds, because when I saw and heard the sounds in the movie, and I saw how the symbiote was like screaming off of Eddie Brock's body, it reminded me of the scene in Spider-Man 3 when Peter Parker was trying to take the black mask, the black suit off, which is the Venom suit, off, and his head banged against the bell, and it caused the suit to try to jump off of him. And the same thing also happened in that movie when he took those bars and started to bang it up against each other to get the symbiote to jump off of the Eddie Brock version in that movie as well. So I like how they kept that in there, and they talked about his weakness. He even said his weakness was high frequency sounds and fire. Those were his two weaknesses. And they did incorporate some comedic element in there as well. They mostly had Venom doing a lot of the comedy. They also had Eddie Brock doing the comedy as well. But imagine you have this symbiote floating in your mind, and it's just telling you things, and you have to try your best to have a conversation with it out in the open and avoid people looking at you. But I like how they kept some realism there, where he's walking down the street and he's talking to Venom in his head, or, you know, he's talking out loud, and people are like stopping and, you know, they're looking at him like he's crazy, because I wouldn't have felt it was realistic if he just walked by them. Then people can clearly hear him and they're just going about their business instead of them looking at him with strange looks. Because I would probably be the same way too, like, who is this guy talking to? Now, one thing they could have did to mask that is, like, say, put some earbuds in to make it seem like he was talking on his phone, and then it wouldn't look as creepy or obvious. But they did also show some you know, parts where it says that, you know, Venom liked to eat people, that he liked to eat people's heads and everything like that. They did actually show that, but they didn't show like a lot of blood splatter and everything like that, because remember, it was a PG-13 version. That's why when I found out that the final rating was going to be PG-13, I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work, because I want to see it all. Because I said Venom is like a hardcore type of character. He's not this cookie cutter character. He's not playful or anything like that. Like, he's a badass. And, you know, they had to work with what they had. Like I said, hopefully they come out with a director's cut version of the movie, so they can really show Venom really go in and everything like that. Now, I will say this: when they come out with the next Venom movie, because I'm almost certain they're going to come out with another one, with a character that's being introduced, that movie needs to be no less than R-rated. I hope y'all are catching the hint. That movie needs to not be anything less than R-rated. I will not accept anything except that. It has to be. Like, the next character that they bring into the Venom universe, I guess you can call it that, has to be R-rated, because one, of the character, and two, it's a character that many people, including myself, have been wanting to see for a very, very long time. And I won't be surprised if they came up with this Venom movie and this franchise going into it just to introduce that character in there too. And this character too is also a villain of Spider-Man. And he's much more dangerous than Venom, and he's not as, I guess you can say, flip-floppy. He has only one mission, and that's to kill and destroy and create all kinds of chaos. It's another word, but if I give the word, I practically give up his name. Hint, hint. But overall, I was expecting to go into this movie to not like it that much, but you know what? I heard that the movie got mixed reviews. You know, some people liked it, some people didn't like it. I'm kind of like in between. There were some things that I didn't like, then there were some things that I did like. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I completely hated the movie. There was, like, you know, some points, like I specified before, that I didn't like. I hate that they gave it a PG-13 rating. I think that was my biggest gripe right there. But other than that, you know, it had its moments. It had its funny moments. The action was good. The dialogue was pretty decent. If I had to rate this movie, I would give it probably a 7 out of 10. I would give it a point higher if it was R-rated. If y'all go and see this movie, you'll see why I say I wish that this movie could have been R-rated. Because it's like some of the kills that Venom had to do had to be off screen. Like, you saw like what he was doing. Like, if he was about to eat somebody or anything like that, they made it off screen, because if they did it on screen, they might as well have made the movie R-rated. But because of that, I think we only saw maybe one blood splatter in this entire movie. I don't think I only saw one. I could be wrong, but I think I only saw one. But overall, it was a pretty, you know, decent movie. I'm not gonna say it was the best movie to come out in the fourth quarter, because I would be lying. I haven't seen the rest of the movies that's coming out this year, and there's plenty more movies to come out, plenty more movies to see and review. But that's my review of Venom. If you would like to, based on my review, you can go out and check it for yourself. Or you can, you know, do whatever you do, because I know some of y'all gonna say, well, I'll just watch it online, or I'll wait for it to come on TV, or maybe I'll get the Blu-ray version, and hopefully it's a director's cut, and I'll see that version. I would like to see that version as well. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. The links to my PayPal, Patreon, and email will be in the description. I will talk to you in the next one.